right, hello and welcome F1 race fans. We are here, Elite Aspect F1 25 for round 5 race at the Jeddah Street Circuit in Saudi Arabia. Looks like everybody's loading into the lobby. They readying up. So if we look at qualifying results of the top 10, we only had 15 participants and a couple, for some reason, did see a couple crashes. So that would be the top 10. I don't see Abdullah in the race at the moment, so that'll be unfortunate. The starting grid would have looked like Abdullah on pole with Harrison Holmes rounding out the front row. Edmund, Assy, Flatbread, GFO, Young Lights, MDJ, Nikon, Jordy, Antonio, Ghost, Liam, Florissant, Marcos, and Xjo would be outside of the top 10 to begin. We can look at our driver standings. I didn't see O&B Alberto in the lobby as well, so Harrison Holmes should be starting on the front row with Marcos Olmedo just behind, starting outside the top 10 due to not qualifying. Florissant again outside the top 10. Young Lakes, I believe, will be starting 5th, with GFO also a decent starting position. And the constructors, we do have the V-Carbs taking top spot with 2 wins out of the 4. After Bahrain. As it looks like we are about to load in here. Drivers need to set their strategy, set their starting tires, as again we qualified yesterday. So as best as we can predict the starting grid. Only 16 drivers today. I think Xjo did not make it. Abdullah, I did not see in the lobby to be put in the grid. So it might be Harrison Holmes on pole, followed by Edvin Naslin, Assy, Flatbread, GFO to start the top 5, which would improve Young Lights to 6th position, I believe. We'll see once we get going here. Should be a formation lap. Again, Elite Aspect F1 25. Round 5 here at Saudi Arabia. 100% no assist race. As the drivers are putting on setups and choosing their strategies. And there will be a formation lap. We are about to get underway here for Elite Aspect F1 25. Round 5 in Saudi Arabia. Jeddah Street Circuit, very fast. Danger lurking around every corner almost, due to the speed and the blind turns. Expect to see quite a bit of action. Whoever can get ahead and stay ahead will have an advantage. But easy to make mistakes around here, easy to invalidate a lap, easy to run off track, easy to get a penalty or track limits. Also, if someone crashes, the curbs are slippery. Riding them can throw you offline. Very easy to have a crash, very easy to have a spin on the curbs as well. And it's just making sure everything's okay with the lobby. As we have gotten the formation lap underway, it is Harrison Holmes on pole, followed by Edvin Naslin in the Haas. The 2 Ferraris, 3rd and 4th on the 2nd row, with Assy and Flatbread. Young Lights moves up to 5th. MDJ in the Aston will be 6th, starting on hards, it looks like. We'll take a look at that. With Nikon starting 7th, Antonio Bove 8th, Ghost 9th, Liam Daughtry 10th. That'll be Florissant 11th, Marcos Almeida, who could score a bag full of points here and move up in the driver's standings, is 12th. MTU in the Mercedes 13th, with TF10 George Ansel in the McLaren pulling up the back. As it is most drivers starting on the mediums, Nikon and Bove have decided to go with the hard compound. It does say a two-stop medium, medium hard, or medium, medium soft. However, MDJ starting on the hards, Florissant starting on the hards, and George Ansel starting on the hards. So 3 drivers on hards, 2 drivers on softs, and we'll see if Nikon and Antonio Bove can improve positions from the start and try to pressure the top 3. And start making their way into turns 16, 17, 18, down a DRS straight, one of the back straights. Very, very fast. And making his way into turn 22, which is very treacherous, coming out to that curb, back to the right. And as we take a look on back through the field, it'll be ABS Harrison Holmes bringing them to the line, trying to get the heat into those compounds of tires. Both Aston Martins, MDJ and Florissant, elected to start on the hards. Nikon and Antonio Bove in 7th and 8th have elected to start on the softs. George Ansel on a set of hards, everybody else on the mediums. And it was a 2-stop strategy. I've heard the mediums can possibly last 20 laps, maybe more. Drivers are hitting their marks as we get ready to be underway. Elite Aspect F125, round 5 here in Saudi Arabia. It is a pretty good run down to turn 1. We are about ready. 5 red lights are out. Away we go. Looks like a good start from Harrison Holmes. It's able to cover off Edvin Naslin. Nobody making their way. Are the 2 Ferraris battling into turn 2. Young Lights up to 5th. Antonio Bove up to 6th. Who is that dropping down quite a bit? MDJ all the way in the back already as they make their way into turns 4 and 5. As you are up front, Bove up a couple spots, Nikon up a couple spots, Ghost up, Marcos Almeida up. It was MDJ that fell off at the start, probably a clutch issue release, I'm assuming. If you go back and look at the replays. It's around turn 13 for the first time. We've got almost 3 wide with MTU Florissant. Marcos Almeida just ahead of them. With TFT George in the McLaren hounding them. Leon Doherty as well. There's again your possible race strategies. Harrison Holmes still leading the race. Young Lights putting pressure on Flatbread. I thought I saw somebody go almost 2 wide there. It was Marcos and Nikon. MTU, Nikon off the track there. Into turn 22. Really bad start from MDJ, just trying to catch up to the back of the pack. Florissant and MTU still battling. Look at this, we're going to go 3 wide. Into turn 27, the final turn. Florissant leading these 4. As DRS will be enabled after this first lap. Into the slipstream. Antonio Bove looking for an inside, going to turn into the outside on those soft compound tires through turn 2. Bove does get by, drops Flatbread to 6, Ghost licking his lips now into turn 4. Able to keep the inside line, that's going to force Flatbread off a little bit, able to drive defensive. Florissant tangled with Liam Doherty there, it looked like. Dropping down to 13th. Terrible start for the 2 Aston Martins, or they are now 13th and 14th. Look ahead. All these drivers on medium compound tires. Softs for Antonio. I believe it was softs for Nikon too. It's dropped back to 11th. Again, DRS will be enabled this lap, so we should start seeing something. Six-tenths back going into this final straight. DRS is going to open. How much will that gap close? This flatbread makes his way past Ghost into turn 27. Looks like there might have been a little lockup. So with the DRS, Ghost getting past Flatbread in the background. Marcos Olmedo also getting through past Ghost as well, up to 6th. MDJ has pit and put on a set of medium tires. Didn't see any damage on Florissant's car. He has dropped back considerably. Anything can still happen very, very early in this race. Lap 3 of 50 here for Elite Aspect F125, round 5 in Saudi Arabia. Flatbread pushing very hard onto Ghost. As right on board with the leaders here, those DRS zones. Edvin Naslin v. Harrison Holmes. As Ghost is falling to TF10 and George through Flatbread and Liam Doherty. Edvin Naslin unable to make anything work. Young Lights all over the back of AC. DRS open down into turn 1. We'll see if Edvin Naslin can make a move. In the background, we'll look at Young Lights, who is getting past the Ferrari up onto a podium spot now. A great start for Young Lights, up from 5th or 6th. Asi will not be giving this up and will want to fight that. Should see a lot of back and forth with these DRS zones around Saudi Arabia. That's going to be a penalty for Flatbread, a little too far over off track. Edvin Naslin chasing Harrison Holmes. I see Young Lights Antonio Bove is probably the biggest action we're having at the moment. They're making their way to these back 2 DRS zones. So fast, left, left, right, right. As only 4 laps in and we're already seeing penalties being handed out for track limit. Edvin Naslin unable to make that gap happen. Antonio Bove taking the inside line, or the outside line, I'm sorry. Unable to get past Asi there. But side by side they go, both with DRS on Young Lights. Looks like it's going to be Antonio Bove is going to be on the outside here. He's going to make it through. He's going to have the inside through turn 2. The cutback on the soft tires, the medium tires for Asi are going to hold out here. And he'll keep 4th place, but then battling is allowing Young Lights to move up the road a little bit. And is bringing TF10 George and TRT Marcos into the mix. Think an issue with Asi there. Going to allow quite a few drivers by. Very, very easy to make a mistake through, what is that, turns 8 through 12, really? Because the hairpin, banked hairpin is turn 13. So up to 6th is Marcos, up to 5th is TFT, 10 George. Antonio Bove in 4th trying to hunt down Young Lights. We'll get DRS to be able to close this gap, but it's going to have to defend from behind of George and Marcos as well. As we do see liberties with track limits. It is Edvin Naslin that is going to get by Harrison Holmes. Now back into turn one. I'm pretty sure something's going to happen behind us as well. With the DRS into turn one, it's going to be outside to inside line. We'll see, where do they break? Edvin Naslin has to hold on. Might think about making that pass into turn one next time instead of turn 13, as Ghost has dropped back. TFT up to fourth past Antonio Bove now. Marcos Olmedo all over the back is going to have the outside run into turn, going to have to go off track a little bit. Now Bove coming back through, very, very dangerous section to be too wide. Whoa, look how close that is. Ghost and Flatbread battling in the back for top 10. Get another points paying position. As George will look to hunt down Young Lights for a podium position. Edvin Naslin holding firm behind Harrison. Was able to get by on the last lap into turn 27, but unable to hold it through turn 1. As there will be overtaking aplenty. Edvin and Harrison up the road, 5.5 seconds on Young Lights. Young Lights trying to defend from George here. This is going to be really close. Look at the exit George got on the hard compound tires, able to make them work up into third. Young Lights not able to do much, as Marcos Olmedo going to be able to reel in Young Lights as well. Young Lights will get DRS and a chance to come back at TFT 10 George. TFT 10 George, sorry. As the DRS train is beginning. MTU for an early pit stop. MDJ is already pit once. Have to see a replay of the start. Not sure what happened to MDJ. I see offline a little bit out of turn 12 now into turn 13. Maybe had to slow down to avoid a warning. Possible penalty. But Liam Doherty, but great exit out of 13. If you get 16 right and a good exit, might be able to put the pressure on here. But he's also defending from Liam Doherty behind. The DRS will save him. Antonio Bove will not have DRS. And it is Marcos Olmedo who is able to get by Young Lights into turn 22 there. I will set Marcos free. As it is Liam Doherty who goes on the outside and the offensive, is able to get past both Antonio Bove and Liam Doherty. Now has his teammate in front up the road just by 1.5 seconds. I see they're going to have to defend into turn 1 again. Ferrari took a look to the inside but was not willing. Young Lights still keeping the pressure on Marcos Olmedo as well. Back up to the front. Through turns 8, 9, 10, 11 here. That's Haas v. Sauber for the top spot on the podium. We'll see if that gap from Marcos Olmedo to George Ansel starts to decrease a little bit, less than 2.5 seconds. 4th through 8th, all within 1 second of each other. We expect these soft compound tires to start falling off here a little bit around this mark. So nothing wrong with an early pit stop for an undercut. Back to the leaders. Asi might be making a move on Antonio Bove as well. Nothing into turn 27. Here we are with Bove is going to get around the outside into turn 27. Not much Bove can do to defend against that. They've got a nice gap to Ghost behind, but need to pull up to the guys in front as well, as that gap is improving with Liam Doherty to Young Lights to Marcos Olmedo as they make their way into turn 1 and 2. As Bove will return the favor to Aussie. These two playing chicken with the DRS maybe. One goes by into 27. Next one gets back by into turn 1. They continue to do that pretty much unless you try to get an undercut and break that DRS. Which has brought Ghost back into play, those two battling it back and forth. Aussie a little off track there. We saw had a little bit of speed, probably caught a whip of bad air from the Red Bull in front as they're making their way into the banked 13 hairpin. Liam Doherty is now very, very close to his teammate. As they're making their way into the first DRS zone here on the back. PU has retired from the session. Can't tell if it was in the pit lane. I don't see a car on track. I do see a car on track in the first sector. Young Lights did have DRS as well. How far back is Edvin Naslin? More than half a second as they cross the line with the DRS. Close the gap to about 3.5 tenths, which you probably need to be 3.5 tenths coming out of. As it is Doherty on his teammate with the DRS able to get by. Antonio Bove coming off those soft compound tires early. That'll improve Flatbread and probably Nikon as well. Of course, MDJ with that really, really early pit stop off the set of mediums now onto the hards. Nikon makes a pit off the soft tires as well. Antonio Bove put on a set of hards. Nikon is putting on a set of mediums. Bove come out in front of MDJ. Edvin Naslin really, really close. They come out of turn 13. In through 16. Going to open the DRS. And hopefully get a great exit out of this 22-23 combination. There's another DRS zone comes here. Try to stay in that slipstream, get the overspeed. He's put the pressure on and maybe do a fake. Able to get the car slowed down and turned in, rear end a little bit out there. So we'll see. Is within that close to 3.5 tenths. I don't think it's going to be enough still into turn 1. Had to back out. TF10 George alone in third at the moment. 5 seconds to Marcos Olmedo, who is now having to contend with Liam Doherty. Ghost and Aussie still fighting the Ferrari and the McLaren as they make their way down into turn 1 as well. Back and forth on that back straight pretty much every lap. Back up to the leaders, Edvin Naslin and Harrison, within that half a second. Sticking right there. Any battling they do will bring George into it as that gap is closing to 2 seconds. Liam Daltrey is harassing Marcos Olmedo, 4th place, so we'll keep an eye on that. Aussie, Ghost, and Aussie and Ghost now. As Young Lights, Liam Daltrey has got ahead. Good gap, about 3 seconds to all of them back through. Coruscant up to a point now after the dreadful start. Antonio Bove is getting around him. So probably a mistake in that turn 12, 10 to 12 section. Fresh tires for Antonio Bove now as well. Looks like TF10 George dropped that about a half a second. We'll see if this is the fastest lap. No, 8 tenths off his best. Liam Daltrey into the pits. Aussie unable to make it happen into turn 1. Edvin Naslin getting really close out of turn 13, it looks like, but then unable to capitalize. George has closed that gap to half a second. So we have a battle for the lead between three drivers here. And as you see George coming in the background as they're making the way under DRS down into turn 27. Edvin Naslin very close here. I think this one might be the time. All the energy, no, there's energy being consumed. Unable to make a move there into turn 1 on lap 13 of 50 for round 5 at Saudi Arabia here for Elite Aspect F125. Young Lights comes into the pits, getting off a set of mediums. Aussie and Ghost still battling it out, but now we have all top 3 within 1 second of each other. So that will be interesting. Again, Liam Daltrey is already pits coming out in front of his teammate Antonio Bove, improved back ahead of Young Lights as well. Florissant will get by. Not sure if he's even had a pit stop yet. So the Aston Martin's at a great disadvantage here. After a good performance in Bahrain last week. Unable to keep that momentum. Of course, only 13 of 50 laps have been run so far here today. So plenty of time. Anything can happen. 13 drivers left. So plenty of points on offer for everybody. A safety car could drastically change the complexion of this race. As wheels beside going into turn 27, a little bit of wheel banging coming out of it. 3 wide down the front straight. Edvin Naslin loses out to George. George is now going to have the inside to outside line into turn 1. Great battling between the top 3. The hard tires for George. He's taking advantage of what may be tires that are still a little bit better suited at the moment. As Ghost will come into the pit. I will release Aussie from that battle. Liam Daugherty being improved to 6th. Ove up to 7th now. Will Ghost come out? No, not in front of Young Lights, not in front of Florissant. Was Florissant yet to pit? Started on hard compound tires. Is going to have Ghost with fresh tires very, very close, but is making headway on Young Lights as well, as they're still up here with the top 3 of ABS Harrison, TF10 George, and Edvin Naslin. We will see the DRS opened here. Will George be able? Not quite. Harrison Holmes, great driving. We'll give him that. Has led all of this race except for a little bit of it when Naslin was able to get by briefly. Ghost past Florissant now on those fresher tires. George does get by Harrison into turn 1. Not greatly contested. I think Harrison and Edvin Naslin are both looking at their tires and thinking, yeah, it might be time to get off these sets of mediums. Either a fresh set of mediums, take it to lap 30, and then do a set of hards for the final 20 laps, possible. Put on a set of hards, try to keep track position, pit as late as you can for maybe a set of softs. Who knows? Plenty of time left, plenty of racing. But for the most part, ABS Harrison has led this race from start to finish, from start to now. Did lose out to Edvin Naslin. But retook the lead on the same lap into turn 1, I believe. Was able to keep Edvin Naslin in the mirrors. Now it is TF10 George, who has started from the back, did not qualify, and is now leading this Grand Prix, starting on the hard compound tire. Harrison is staying in the DRS zone of George in the McLaren in front. Might not have been a bad idea to go ahead and pit. Try and undercut possibly. Edvin Naslin has dropped out of DRS from ABS Harrison in front. Marcus Olmedo in the V-Carb is 6.5 seconds behind the top three. A big gap to Asi. Where Liam Doherty is looking to improve. Antonio Bove as well on fresher young lights. Ghost all on fresh tires. Looked like a mistake from Harrison there, having to go wide in turn 12, 11 and 12. Sliding around a little bit back there, you saw Harrison Holmes trying to stay with George. Has the DRS open as they make their way into 27 for the 16th time. Again, lap 17 here in round 5 of Elite Aspect F125 here in Saudi Arabia. Is Harrison close enough to harass George a little bit into turn 1? Doesn't look like it. And I think the drivers that started on mediums have taken them 17 laps already. Might be starting to show their wear. And it was Liam Doherty that got passed, now up to 5th in the Alpine on fresh hards. I don't think Asi is fit left. Ghost is putting in 131s. Asi has not pit, Coruscant has not pit, and the top 4 have not pit. But the fastest man on track at the moment is Ghost, setting a fastest lap with a 131. Now in the wheel tracks of young lights ahead. Exiting turn 17, we'll get DRS. We'll make our way up to the leaders real quick. A yellow flag in sector 2. Looked like Coruscant flatbread and Nikon. Will Ghost be able to make a look into turn 27? It's close enough to maybe make a look into turn 1. That'll be Ghost by on the straight into turn 1. Drivers might want to think about pit stops. I see Antonio Bove still within that 1 second. Young Light still battling back against Ghost. We'll get the DRS behind him this lap, so we'll see if they can switch back and forth again. A little bit better first sector for Ghost there. Flatbread with an issue out of turn 13. Looks like MDJ is getting lapped by the leaders. everybody has spread out now. Harrison lost out a little bit. It is George with a almost 2-second lead now. Young Lights closing a little bit to Ghost in front with the DRS on the main straight into turn 1, lap 19 of 50 now. Closest battle on the track would be Young Lights and Ghost within 1 second. Better first sector from Young Lights there, about half a second up on his last lap. Very close to the wall on the exit of 17. Wasn't in DRS that time. As on lap 20, all the drivers have dropped out of that 1 second gap to the driver in head. George leads by 2.3 from Harrison. Naslin 2.5 seconds. 7 seconds back to Marco. 7 seconds back to Liam. 4 seconds back to Antonio. 3.5 to Ossie. 2 to Ghost. 1 to Young Lights. Did have DRS and is trying to stay within that 1 second. At least stay as close to Ghost as possible. As we see TF10 George up 13 spots. Marcos Olmedo up 8. Doherty up 5. Top 4 yet to stop. Ossie and Florissant yet to stop. As the drivers are ghosting, but very good for MDJ. They're able to get DRS. Unlap himself. So as George a couple seconds up the road. But giving Harrison DRS as well. DJ still has not got around to where flatbread DNF. It might have been in the pits. Yes, it was up to 12, but down a lap. Of course, both those drivers have yet to pit. Ghost looks to be closing on Ossie. It's Marcos Olmedo, the first of the top 4 to jump into the pits. Interesting to see where he comes out as we see Ghost and Young Lights passing the pit exit. On hard compound tires, going to take a lap to warm them up, and we'll probably start putting the pressure back on Young Lights, Ghost, and Assie. Great job from Liam Doherty so far, up to 4th. It'll be interesting to see how the leaders respond to Marcos Olmedo being the first of the top 4 to put on some fresh boots. Again, Ossie has not pit. These are fresh tires for Ghost. Ossie wasn't going to give up the position too easily. Might be difficult to defend now. Oh, didn't see the V car with Marcos Olmedo there. As 3 wide, Ossie's going to fall back to both. Marcos Olmedo up to 6, able to cover off. Will Ghost be late on the brakes? No, Young Light's behind him trying to make a move as well. Aussie on the old rubber. Young Lights is going to get by into turn 4. Up to 8th, Ghost up to 7th, Marcos back up to 6th now. Will be harassed by Ghost on fairly fresh rubber as well. Aussie falling back, needs to pit probably, force on as well. And the top 2. Harrison has pit and has now come out behind Liam Doherty, so he's going to have to chase him down. But the undercut is on for Harrison now. Going to want to get by Liam Doherty as quickly as possible. As Edmund Naslin comes into the pits. Harrison will get by into turn 1 here. Where is Naslin going to come out? Behind Antonio Bove, it looks like. This is an entering pit release. So we'll be close to. What is the time lost in and out of the pits here? Aussie finally comes into the pits. Now coming out of the pits. It's lost out to Florson and Nikon. Florson has not pit yet. Battling Nikon at the pit exit. Is able to get by there. Shouldn't be long to chase down Florson and make his way. Florson trying to take these tires as long as possible and hoping there's an intermission, some sort of interval. Naslin's going to have fresher tires compared to the driver ahead who's already on 13 lap old hards. George Ansel in front still hasn't pitted. This is the Haas getting past the Red Bull into turn 27 there. George continuing on. He did start on the hard tire, so we'll be able to go long, but got to pay attention to behind as these laps that Harrison is doing. A 16-second gap. How much time do you lose in the pits? Since it's Bove and Marcos Olmedo, who might have, no, it was Naslin, I believe. That they might have tussled a little bit. I don't see any damage on that car. Red Bull's front wing looks to be in shape as well. So Marcos Olmedo up to 5th. Edmund Naslin now 4th. Doherty in the podium positions. Harrison closing that gap to George. It's going to be a fight. George is going to go as long as he can, I guess. It's 20 laps for mediums, 30 laps for hards, it looks like, is the name of this race. Aussie has pitted, Florson has not, cannot find a way by. We'll have the tires to take him in late turn 13. Not much Florson can do on these tires. Sparring between Naslin and Antonio Bove has brought Ghost back into the mix here. Closing on Antonio Bove. I hit a little bit of the wall there, not sure. My eyes off it for just a moment. Not close enough into turn 1. Florson and George started on the hard tires, just nursing them. Yes, take them as long as they can go. Back up to Ghost and Antonio Bove. You see in that gap from Harrison to George, drop, drop, drop. It's now under 12 seconds. So George is going to have to pit onto, hopefully, we're thinking a set of mediums, at least. Started on hard, so he has to do a different type, a different compound. 50% of this race done. Elite Aspect F125, round 5 here in Saudi Arabia. 26 of 50, so half of the Grand Prix is over. It's Ghost chasing Antonio Bove for 6th. Have that DRS open as they make their way down this final straight before the start finish. Harrison Holmes pumping in fastest laps. Pretty much a second a lap. He's taking off of Harrison. I mean, he's taking off. Harrison is taking off of George. Harrison and George. George and Harrison. Sounds like a Beetle. See Ghost get by Antonio Bove there in turn 1. Antonio's going to fight back into 4 here. So tricky to be close. 8 through 12. It's like their signatures have merged. They're so close to each other into turn 13 now. Medium tires still serving Ghost pretty well. Will Antonio Bove be able to fight back into 27 under DRS? Look at that closing speed. Missed Edmund Naslin getting past Liam Daugherty. Antonio Bove will get by Ghost here on the main straight in turn 1. George still out in front, has not pit yet. Florson 10th has not pit yet. Look at that gap. Harrison is just pounding in laps. And that gap is closing, closing, closing. Harrison's almost going to have a full pit stop when George finally does and comes out. But we're still fighting for the final podium position here. Edvin Naslin 3rd. Liam Daugherty 8 tenths. TRT Marcos Olmedo 8 tenths. Ghost and Antonio Bove still fighting behind. We could see something happen through 27 and then into 1 again with those two. Again, still 22 laps of this race to go. A long ways to go. Anything can happen. George Ansel leading the race in the McLaren. But Harrison Holmes closing that gap. George yet to pit. As we're watching the battle for 3rd between Marcos Olmedo from Liam Daugherty and Edmund Naslin. Has broken DRS to the Alpine of Liam Daugherty behind. So it will be Marcos Olmedo hoping to improve another spot, grab a few more points as his quest and the V-Carb's quest. Pretty good show for Alpine so far today. As has 2 drivers in the points, McLaren as well. As it looks like Olmedo got a great exit. Going to jot to the inside down the straight and going to be well past. Not much Liam Doherty can do to defend against that one. As that is Marcos up to 4th now. Be able to chase Edvin Naslin down. At least look to. Attempt. You know, Edvin has great pace as well. Ghost and Antonio Bove still fighting back there for 6th and 7th. There's Florissant that comes into the pit and may come out ahead and stay in 10th spot for the last points paying position today. It's going to have fresh rubber, but will be a tall order to try and close down these drivers to improve out of 10th, as it is Nikon does get by Florissant now coming out of the pits. That's a bad day for Aston Martin at the office as of now, with Florissant and MDJ both out of the points position. MDJ able to stay on the correct lap, as it is finally George coming into the pits. Is going to lose out to quite a few drivers here. Out of the pits in 5th, but nice fresh medium tires to take to the end of this race. And it'll be interesting to watch him hunt everybody down. As we see again, Ghost getting by Antonio Bove, having to use some of the inside of the circuit. That's going to be give the position back, I believe, as was unable to make the corner within the confines of track limits. Sliding a little bit out of turn 4 and 5 there. So now all pit stops have been done. You see the ghost car of MDJ losing out and dropping a lap. It's already had 2 stops. Nikon's had 2 stops. So after every driver has stopped, top 3 have hards to mediums of George, who just got past Liam Doherty, will be trying to run all these drivers down in the final 20 laps of this race. Antonio Bove and Ghost still battling. Aussie with much fresher rubbers. Not sure that Young Lights is going to be able to take those mediums much further in this race. I believe that'll be the Ferrari of Aussie on fresh tires, getting past Young Lights there. 17 lap old mediums already, is going to have to pit those. Shortly, I would assume. We'll make our way up the grid to 4th now, with George Ansel harassing PRT Marcos Olmedo for back to podium position. We expect to see George hunting down Edvin Naslin and Harrison, much as he did on the first 20 laps this Grand Prix, as it is Bove and Ghost both coming into the pits now. As George did start from pretty much last on the grid, fought his way through to the lead on hard compound tires, now has a set of mediums that should last him pretty well till the end, on less than 50% fuel now. And the freshest tires in the field. Liam Doherty trying to stay with him to maybe be able to harass Marcos Olmedo. As we're on board with George Ansel. Florissant setting the fastest laps now on the Aston Martin. Looking to improve into the points. As again, it is Liam Doherty in the behind scene there. George able to get by Marcos there. Will Marcos Olmedo be able to MDJ has retired from the session. Looks like he did so in the pits, thankfully. Yes. No look back from Marcos Olmedo here on George. We'll keep an eye on that gap. Fresh medium tires. Nikon has fresh hards too. What Coruscant would not want to do is burn these rubber up. Trying to get past Nikon, he wants to save them, so he has them for the end of the race. But with DRS passing the Haas into 27, moving up into the points as MDJ has retired. So Harrison Holmes, Edvin Naslin on hard compound tires, both 9 and 10 laps old. George on very fresh mediums, only 2 laps old. As we see him on the background of the Haas and Edvin Naslin setting fastest laps. We'll watch this gap to Edvin close. And then in the last 12 to 15 laps, see if he can close that 10-second gap to Harrison Holmes. $17 laps remaining here, Elite Aspect F125, round 5 here at the Jeddah Corniche Street Circuit in Saudi Arabia. We are on board with the McLaren of George, who is going top spot podium hunting with 15 laps remaining here at least. We'll open the DRS with the fresher tires, still unable to get by Edvin Naslin would want to, because more times, the longer he stays behind Edvin, the less laps he'll have to chase down Harrison for the win here today. And to back out there through the very difficult 8, 9, 10, 11. Into the bank 13 hairpin. Harrison will be thanking Edvin Naslin after this, if he's going to be able to hold on by keeping George at bay. Keeping him out of the clean air. Of course, Edvin is the one without a penalty. Antonio Bove doesn't have a penalty. We do see Florissant without a penalty as well, so we do see multiple penalty warnings out there on the right side of the interval screen. We're not going to look at that, but I'm assuming some of them might already be up into that 9 to 12 second range, as it is George with DRS still unable to get by the Haas, Edvin Naslin, so defending very, very well. George unable to make these fresh mediums work. They are taking off their tread, their grip. Every lap he stays behind Edvin. is another lap that he will lose out, gaining half a tenth or half a second to a second on Harrison in front. So I'd say he's probably lost a second a lap these past 2 laps. Harrison Holmes has channeled his inner Fernando Alonso to tell Edvin Naslin to defend like a lion. Interesting enough, that was to Esteban Ocon, who is now driving the Haas that Edvin Naslin is in. Very, very close. All over the back of the gearbox there through turns 22 and 23. Making their way up to 27 in the slipstream, in the DRS. Edvin Naslin defending very, very well here, I will have to say. Maybe a little chicken from George not wanting to be under duress in turn 1. This looks like the best opportunity now. Cuts to the inside. Can he get all 4 wheels ahead? It does look like it. That's going to release George. Edvin Naslin will try to stick with him, but 10 seconds to Harrison, 14 laps to go here. Again, anything can happen these last 15 laps of this race. As everybody is kind of spread out a little bit, George with that fresh medium, especially in sector 1, will be able to break the toe of Edvin Naslin behind. Edvin will kind of be stuck here in no man's land, watching George slowly move up the road away from him. And we'll see if Marcos Olmedo can close that gap to Edvin in the V-carb. For those few extra points, as now we see George setting fastest middle sector. And we see that gap to Harrison closing down. So for 2 or 3 laps, it was stuck at 10 seconds behind Edvin Naslin. And as soon as he got by, he's dropped it by 1.5 seconds. So I imagine we're going to see some fastest laps starting to turn out here. This could be one right here. 2 tenths, almost 3 tenths. So, but still very, very fast laps for George at this stage of the race on those fresh medium tires. Not seeing mini gaps change now. 14 laps to go here. Has now got that gap to 7.5 seconds with 12 laps to go after they finish this one. And it is Antonio Bobe and Ace in the Ferrari. Something happened to Young Lights. If you'll bear with me for 1 second. Get him an invite, try to get him back in. Looks like we got Young Lights back in. There's Aussie and Antonio Bobe still battling it out. Back and forth, back and forth. We're still watching that gap between George and Harrison diminish. Young Lights has lost quite a bit of time to Ghost in front and has allowed Florissant to catch up. Because he ghosted there for a little bit, I think he's back in the car. It doesn't look ghosted now. So hopefully he can push on and it does not affect his race too much. As we're riding on board with Antonio Bove in the Red Bull. We have seen Ossie and Antonio Bove and Ghost battling it out pretty much this entire race for best of the rest here, as opposed to the top 3-4. Half a tenth back as he crosses the line. Don't think that's going to be quite close enough to make a move into turn one. Harrison Holmes and Kick Sauber still leading this race, 39-50. Trying to hold off George, charging on a late pit stop to fresh mediums. He's got that gap to under 6 seconds, has improved over 5 seconds to Edvin Naslin behind. Marcos staying in that 5 seconds to Edvin Naslin. Liam Doherty about 12 seconds back, Ossie about 17 seconds back. It is Antonio Bove within half a second. Trying to keep that battle alive. Florissant gaining on Young Lights again, though. Young Lights was disconnected. We did get him back in. First of the DRS runs, not using too much energy. Not sure how that's a penalty. This may be one of the moves. George has got the gap down to under 5 seconds on lap 40 of 50 here. Fakes to the inside, moves to the outside. That'll make the inside line if his nose is not ahead into turn one. Great defending from Ossie there. I thought that was a good defense move, but the hard tires just unable to compete with Antonio Bove's mediums. Ossie not giving up will continue this battle throughout the next 5 laps, I'm sure. Next 10 laps, I'm sure we won't see this one in until the end of the race. Nice to point out, though, that Florissant, no penalties, and Edvin Naslin, no penalty. 10 laps to go. Maybe we'll take a look. So 6 seconds, 9 seconds for Harrison and George, 3 for Marco, 6 for Liam, 3 for Antonio, 6 for Ossie, 3 for Ghost, 12 for Lights, none for Florissant, and 12 for Lucan. Which may change, may be added to towards the end of this race. As Antonio Bove has set those medium tires. Once you get by into turn one on a nicer set of tires, moving that gap further away in sector one is the best place to break that DRS. As it is George Ansel in the McLaren through turn 13, trying and trying and trying. He's going to need 7 tenths a lap here, 8 tenths a lap almost, to catch Harrison by the end of this race. We'll keep with George Ansel at the moment, as all the gaps. We're watching that one come down as all the other gaps have kind of teetered out to above 2 seconds at least. Young Lights still trying to hold off Florissant. We'll see how that battle goes in as they are approaching turn one now. But you want to finish on track. These penalties, I mean, Saudi Arabia is known for not being too pleasant as far as track limit penalties are concerned. George will have the back marker of Nikon to contend with before, but has got that gap down to 4 seconds. As he's turned through turns 4 and 5 for the 42nd time today. On lap 42 of 50, Elite Aspect F125, round 5 in Saudi Arabia. And kudos to Harrison Holmes, big shout out. Started on pole, was able to hold that position for the most first half of the race. Was overtaken by George around lap 20, who started on hard tires and was able to take them a long ways. But now it is George who took his hard tires a long ways, was able to put on mediums, and take them to the rest of the race. They're not going to be screaming at him shortly with blue flags for the Haas in front. Gap down to 3.7 seconds for George. Lorison has got the gap to under 2 seconds. Young Lights into the pits. I think knows with the penalties will be 10th anyways. Can go ahead and pit, put on some better tires, and push himself. Which promotes Lorison up to 9th at the moment. In the McLaren, George Ansel is going to have to be pushing for the rest of this race. I believe that was Young Lights who just came out in front of him, so that'll be a back marker. That Harrison has gotten by, did not get any benefits of DRS from. But George Ansel may on the next lap. As I do like the helicopter camera. Up 44 of 50, we are just beginning. George closing that gap, 3.5 seconds. Keep an eye on Antonio Bobe, looking to get a couple extra points out of Liam Doherty here at the end, possibly. Does George have enough in his tires to push hard enough? Maybe Harrison saves some in his tires to be able to defend here at the end. It's going to be close. We wind down to the final 5 laps of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix here, round 5 for Elite Aspect F125. As it looks like Young Lights has gotten back on the lead lap, gotten past Harrison Holmes, so no benefit, only benefiting Harrison now. He will take some DRS into turn 27 and again into turn 1 off of the Alpine in front on fresh tires. He did put on softs. That is helping Harrison Holmes greatly keep his gap to George behind. So Liam Doherty did pit for a set of softs. He's going to pass his lap, so I don't think Antonio Bobi is going to be able to really push onto that too much. DRS for Harrison. Very beneficial for Harrison here. As it is George, who will not be able to keep pace with a driver that has DRS ahead. Which may be a little unfortunate for us spectators here, as we would like to see a battle at the end. So good strategy by Harrison here to stay in the wheel tracks of the ghosted car in front with blue flags, to not pass it, continue the DRS to mitigate the time advantage that George will have in the turns per lap. As we are winding down here, 46 of 50, laps done. Excellent strategy by Harrison. Pitted early, was able to do the undercut on George. After George started on hards, was able to gain track position, but maybe stayed out there too long. And Harrison was able to undercut greatly. As you can see, Harrison ahead. Into turn one now, just behind Young Lights. We do have Ghost possibly making a run at Aussie in the Ferrari here in just a little bit as well. Starting lap 48 of 50, 3 laps to go. 3.5 second gap from George to Harrison. Harrison's still using Young Lights for DRS, it looks like. Another McLaren. Very close to Aussie now, less than a second. Aussie touched the wall there on the inside of 22. So we'll just close that gap to 2.5 seconds now. Ghost unable to find a way through into turn one. Oh, top speed there of about 210. But you can see where these drivers will come out with the penalties out there. And it's a penultimate lap for our leaders. No unable. George Ansel 3.2 seconds back of Harrison. Excellent strategy from Harrison. Take a look at the penalties there again. Edvin's going to want to stay within 9 seconds of George, that's for sure. I think Ghost will end up ahead of Aussie with those penalties as well. Love to finish on track ahead, that's for sure. As on to the final lap, our leader, Harrison Holmes, led the race for most of the race. When his medium tire started on, fell off. It was George who was able to overtake, but fantastic strategy to pit, get off those hards, get off the mediums, go onto the hards, and undercut George, who took his hards a long ways, but was unable to grant them to effect here at the end of the race to close that gap to Harrison. Started when he was pushing, when he first started on the mediums, about 20 laps ago now, but was unable, with brilliant strategy from Harrison using the back markers for DRS, keep that gap above 3 seconds. In the end, it probably wouldn't have mattered with the penalties. Now they will be placed. We are keeping an eye on Edvin Naslin, who's trying to stay within that 9-second gap to George, as it is Ghost finally getting by Aussie. Aussie will fight back. That was an interesting place to overtake as well. As it was Harrison coming across the line, will stay in first place, as it is George. Edvin crosses the line, 7/10 out of taking over second spot. Good race from Marcos Olmedo to come from the back and end up fourth. As Liam Darty, another good race from him. Did not qualify, so started outside of the top 10, and he's going to bring it home in 5th for the Alpines. Goes through turn 27 for the final time. Aussie still trying, but with the penalty, I don't think it would matter anyway. That's going to bring Ghost home 7th, Aussie 8th. The Florissant next across the line in 9th, with Young Lights and Nikon on the vet lap after being lapped. So we're waiting for Florissant to finish out his lap, and that'll do it for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix here in Elite Aspect F125. Congratulations, our winner Harrison Holmes. Second, George Ansel from the back. Harrison did start on pole. Edvin Naslin comes home 3rd. Marcos Olmedo comes home 4th. Liam Daugherty started at the back without qualifying, will come home 5th. It'll be Young Lights rounding out the top 10. Florissant, who we were on board with there at the finish, finishes 9th. Yes, congratulations, Harrison Holmes. Top spot of the podium. George Ansel in the McLaren second. Edvin Aslan in the Haas became third. Congratulations, Kick Sauber and that team. Excellent points, closing up the driver standings, closing up the constructor standings as well. As we see the celebrations from our top three here for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix for Elite Aspect F125. As there you go. For our awards for today. And that'll be the final standings. Harrison from George, from Edvin Naslan. Top three podium finishers. You see the points on the right hand side. It'll be Young Lights with the final point. That's going to do it for Elite Aspect F125 for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. That was round 5. We'll come back next week in Miami for a sprint race weekend. So pre-practice 1 on Thursday, sprint qualifying on Thursday. We'll have a sprint race early Friday, and then Grand Prix qualifying on Friday after the sprint race. And then we'll come for the 100% Grand Prix no assists on Saturday, July 26th. So join us Thursday, Friday at 7 and 9 British Standard Time for pre-practice and sprint qualifying, sprint race, and Grand Prix qualifying. And we'll see you at 8 p.m. British Standard Time on Saturday for the Grand Prix in Miami. Appreciate everybody. We will see you on the next one. That's going to do it here for Elite Aspect F125 and the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, which was round 5 of our season. Look forward to seeing you guys in Miami next week. That'll do it for here. I'm Fabregas1115 signing off.